How do you know what the moment was that I knew CBD had gone mainstream?
When was that?
It was about a month ago, maybe two. I was at a local Chipotle's and it had closed down and had been replaced by a CBD store.
Wait a second. CBD is now more mainstream than big old burritos. Have you been into this place yet?
No, I have not, and I will not. I'm sticking with Floyd's of Leadville, and not just because they're this show's longtime sponsor. While there are a lot of companies that want to sell you some CBD, if you care about quality and you care about price, you definitely want to go with Floyd's.
That's right, Fatty. CBD's effectiveness is determined by purity and potency, and Floyd's of Leadville goes to great lengths to ensure their CBD is the purest, highest quality possible.
Yeah, and that's not just marketing either. They source their CBD from seed to shelf from top U.S. farms. They have their own manufacturing operation with the latest in CBD extraction technology,
which makes it possible for Floyd's to offer the finest quality CBD at the most reasonable prices. In the same way vitamins aren't all the same, Floyd's of Leadville CBD is not the same as what you might find at some random retail location.
They used to be at Chipotle's. We have been using Floyd's of Leadville CBD for 3 years now, you and I, and we couldn't be happier with it. And of course, our listeners get a great deal. Just use the code FATTY at checkout for 15% discount on all your orders.
And thanks Floyd's of Leadville for being the title sponsor of the show.
3, 2,
1. Leadville, the podcast for the 100-mile mountain bike race presented by Floyd's of Leadville. It is season 4, episode 5 of the show that breaks down, builds up, gets you ready, and freaks you out for the highest and hardest one-day mountain bike race in the country. I'm Michael Houghton, Hottie to most.
And I'm Fatty, and I am excited for the race this year. Hottie, it is really nice to be able to say that as we get closer to race day.
Yeah, last year, even before the race was canceled, any thinking person had concerns about whether this race was going to happen or if it should happen.
Yeah. And this year, I have to say, I'm a little nervous. So much has been so weird for so long. It's hard to believe something normal, even good, could happen anymore. But I am optimistic, and I think Leadville is going to happen. And while I think it's going to be a little different, the number of people in any one place is going to have to be constrained a little, just to be cautious. I am so excited, Hottie, to line up and race.
In a way, the celebration for this year's race will start days before we get to the starting line, but before the celebration comes preparation.
And that is why we are partnering with our longtime sponsor, The Feed, to create a new show segment, and that is Feed Fails. You can text in or you can call in your feed fails, short stories about how you got your nutrition spectacularly wrong in a racing or a training situation. And that goes to our Leadville podcast hotline. Here's the number, 719-453-1514.
In fact, Brian Simpson sent in a feed fail that many athletes can identify with. He said, I planned my nutrition strategy and practiced it for months before race day. However, on race day, I failed. With the oxygen deprivation and being race stupid, I kept telling myself the lie that I would be okay by not eating on schedule. By the time I was at Powerline, I was spent. I managed to finish the day, but missed the buckle. Bottom line, I planned, but did not execute.
That sound familiar, Hottie? I could have written this one. 15 times I could have written this one. I've been in that exact mental state so many times. I can think of the exact spot, in fact, that I have been just like Ryan, talking to myself on the goat trail, basically. The final couple miles before the turnaround, when you were at about 12,000 feet and you were saying to yourself, you know what, that time to eat chime on my GPS, just, I can ignore it for a few minutes. I'll just eat in a few minutes. I just can't eat right now. I'll catch up on the descent.
Oh, catch up on the descent. Yeah, you're going to grab something and eat as you're bombing down Columbine. Never quite works, huh? All right. There are demons that live on that GO trail and the inbound power line climb. And they whisper things like that to all of us. You cannot listen to those whispers. This is probably the most common Leadville feed fail of all. Getting behind on your plan and then lying to yourself that it's okay.
Yeah, it's just not okay. When you get behind, your stomach doesn't get better. It gets worse. And before long, it gets truly impossible to catch up.
Part of training is building plan discipline and then trusting that plan when it matters.
Years ago, I finally taught myself to eat when I'm at my limit and I'm breathing hard and I'm not thinking straight, and eating just does not appeal. It sounds like the worst thing in the world. But if you want to succeed at the Leadville 100, you have to learn that. You've got to start learning it while you're training right now.
Yeah, so start eating while you're on those long rides and do it on schedule. If you can't chew during a big climb, find something like a gel or Morton's 160 or 320 or whatever works for you, and learn to fuel yourself while you are pinning it, while you are breathing as fast as you can, because trust us, you'll be breathing faster at 12,000 feet.
Whatever you're going to use, and it could be different things in different parts of the race, it should be. You're going to find what you need at the feed. Go to thefeed.com/Leadville. Get yourself a great 15% discount for listening to this show.
And send us your own feed fails to the Leadville Podcast Hotline. Again, 719-453-1514. If we use your feed fail on the show, our friends at the feed will send you a nice little prize, a very nice box of assorted products from the feed. You might find exactly what you need then for your banner day at Leadville.
Yeah, one more time, call or text your feed fails to 719-453-1514 and go to thefeed.com/Leadville, get a 15% discount on everything there. And thanks so much to the feed for sponsoring this segment of the show.
Yeah.
Hottie, we have an inspiring cyclist as our guest today.
Yeah, John Croom has not raced the Leadville 100. Not yet. But that's about to change. He's on Team USA for track cycling. He was an Olympic hopeful, and he holds a record in track cycling's team pursuit competition.
Yeah, and now he's getting ready, like the rest of us, to race the Leadville 100. And that is in spite of the fact that when he registered for the race, he didn't even own a mountain bike.
Hopefully he's got one by now, because it's currently it's not very easy to buy a mountain bike, or any bike for that matter. We'll have to talk to John about that. So let's get to John Croom right now on the Leadville 100 Mountain Bike Podcast.
John Croom, it is exciting to talk with you and to share your story about Leadville and why you're doing it and what you're hoping to do. Welcome.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I'm super stoked to be here. Listening to your guys' podcast was last week, guys riding a gravel bike in Leadville. And so I think, I always think I'm doing something nuts, and then I hear about the next person doing Leadville, and I'm just like, all right, well, I just can't keep up.
Well, but you're planning to. And your whole story, I want to kind of dial all the way back to your origin story. What caught my eye when you said hi, when you introduced yourself, is you started not too long ago at 300 pounds.
Yeah, I was in high school. I was around 300 pounds, heavyweight wrestler, I was a football player. Kind of did it all, but I loved riding my bike. I'd ride my bike to school. I'd ride my bike to friends' houses. Like, I was the kid who, I guess, after a while, I didn't really like driving my car as much. I was on the fixed gear. And so like at, 10 o'clock at night, it would just be me and a buddy, and we would ride with these dinky lights on our little fixed gears around town, and it was just so freeing. And now, mind you, during this entire time, I'm 300 pounds. So, it was awesome. And so the only way I could pay for parts for my bike was to work at a bike shop, inadvertently. And they were just building a velodrome, which, it's the track, If you guys don't know what it is, like 250-meter concrete banked track in Rock Hill, South Carolina. And they were building that in about 2011, 2012. And I was working at a bike shop, and I said, I really kind of want to try racing. Like, how hard can it be? I was always good at sports. Everything came quick. Everything came easy. And a guy in there just looked me dead in the face, and he goes, "Mate, you are too fat to be riding a bike." And I said, "What do you mean, man?" I mean, it's like, and I'm just, all I've ever seen is these guys in spandex, and, how hard can it be? And those were my famous last words. How hard can it be? And the next thing I know, I find myself in Colorado Springs training for the 2020 Olympic Games and going for the Olympics.
I will say that you were an athlete. I mean, you've always been an athlete. It's not like you were, a 300-pound sack of potatoes, but you...
For sure. I was that guy that they would always look at and be like, "Oh, you're just big bone, man. You're not really that fat." But I was big.
Yeah, my point is, as a big guy, a big muscular wrestler, football player, if you're going to pick a discipline on the bike to start with racing, track was for sure it, right? That's where the big, strong guys can really excel. There are no climbs, and power is everything. And so you had a great start there.
For sure. And you could just make your holes wherever you needed to be. I mean, you being a big dude, it's like everybody's so close. And if you needed to push people around, and it was actually, that was what I liked about track cycling. I felt like, I mean, you see all these crit videos and road race videos of people, it is pretty physical, but like in track, it's close, it's personal, and there's only so much space for 24 guys on that small track. So I fell in love with it.
So you kind of flashed forward to a pretty important headline. So let's go back a little bit on that. In national championships, how long did it take for you to get to that point?
Oh man. Well, so if we dive back, it's like, I think 2014 was the first year I ever started racing. I crashed in my first crit in Florida. In the last lap, I busted up my knee, and then I found myself, I had one goal, and that was just to go to national championships. And I mean, most of the people hopefully listening to this podcast understand, like, it's upgrading in track cycling is like upgrading in any form of USA Cycling license category, per se. So like, I'm trying to score points, and I'm trying to work towards, and I'm trying to race as many races as I can. With track cycling, you have to go to other tracks, and the next closest track to me was like 15 hours away. And I'm playing all these politics, and I'm also this jerk of a, teenager, almost 21-year-old who's like, "Oh, I'm better than everyone." Like, because I'm dominating all these races in my hometown, and people are like, "You need to go to another track." And like, they want me to go to another track just so I can learn real quick that I'm not the greatest thing that has walked the earth, And so it's a small community too. So that's another thing that I learned pretty quick. And so, I found myself going to other tracks. I actually didn't get the chance to ride elite national championships. So what I did is I signed up for para nationals. So I rode pilot for a blind individual on a tandem in track cycling. And we got third place in the match sprint. And so that started my first year of winning a national medal at every track national championships that I've ever attended.
That's cool. Wow. A tandem sprint on the track. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's honestly the scariest thing I've ever done. Hands down, the scariest thing I've ever done. I mean, you are literally leading the blind, first off. And they want to race just as much as you want to race. And it's full gas. And it's one thing to feel a bike flex under you, but feeling a tandem and like the tail whip version on the back, because the guy's sprinting and he moves differently as you move. It's wild. It's a crazy feeling. So yeah.
You'll want to watch the, I can't remember which of the two Leadville films it is, John, but in one of them, they feature a tandem bike where the guy on the back is blind. And he's done like the Seven Summits and all kinds of...
The second one.
Yeah, it's a second film. He's done all kinds of great events, but he was he was pretty freaked out about being at Leadville and being on a tandem. So you'll for sure want to watch that. I'm sure you can relate.
Oh yeah, I could definitely relate, because it's not only what was really good for that event for me was learning how to travel. I think I had never really traveled on a plane before, much less with a bike. And then having to travel with somebody who was visually impaired and help him through the airport too was like a whole nother ball game, because like I'm trying to get him through a packed airport with his bags and my bags, and he can't see, and he's very like he's super independent, and his name's DJ, great guy. He's super independent and super passionate, and so like sometimes you also kind of have to give them their space, because they're people, man. They want to live like normal people too, and I think that was also really inspiring as well. And so I learned so much that I didn't really notice then, that I kind of pick up now, that I actually use in my traveling and some other things that I've kind of taken with me. But yeah, so that was my first opportunity to race a national championship. So I took it. And
you've been in every one since, every national championship since.
Yeah, I've been in every elite national championship since, and I've won a medal at every elite national championship since. And it took me 2014. So 2015 was my first elite. I won a medal in team pursuit. The next one was 2016, and I think I got a medal in the team pursuit again. And then I did 2017 is where I won my first actual national championship in the kilometer time trial, and I've won that the last 3 years in a row.
So you're national champion 3 times in a row in the kilometer.
Yeah, in the kilometer.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell us about the kilometer real quick. That's a very interesting event.
Yeah.
It's no longer an Olympic event, correct? But
correct.
We still race it on the national level. It's like to me, it's the ultimate test of an athlete alone.
Yeah, it's and I mean, it's funny because like people go, people just immediately assume that would be my favorite event because I've won it. But I'm a huge fan of all time trials, and I'm a big fan of the pursuit. But the kilo is just it's a beautiful yet painful effort, and the fact of how short it is. It's if it's on a 3:33, you're doing 3 laps. If you're on a 250 meter track, you're doing 4 laps. And it's just, from the gate, you start from a standstill. From the gate, you go as hard as you can go, and you just hang on. Like you literally just hang on for the ride. And it's crazy it's just like, I would assume it's kind of like Leadville, the amount of emotions that you go through anywhere from 8 hours to 16 hours or however long it takes you. But you have some good moments, some bad moments, some not so great moments. You're questioning life in certain moments, and then all of a sudden you're bouncing back and you're going faster than you've ever gone before. The kilo is very like that, except it's take everything and just compact it into that kilometer, because you pretty much start and you think to yourself, you're like, I only got 3 laps to go. And by the second lap, you're like, I got 2 laps to go and I'm flying. After that, it's the wheels are starting to come undone, and the last lap is pretty much as if you're doing the kilo all over again. So it's a crazy event.
You're experiencing all of Leadville in 3 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever. That's amazing.
A minute for that matter. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, might be 3-4 minutes. So I have to ask, in this way, in the range of emotions and the all-out effort, yes, like Leadville, but in practically every other way, what you have been doing on the track is as opposite of Leadville, as in terms of the kind of riding, the altitude, climbing, mountain biking, crowds. It's so different. It is almost the opposite on every scale. Why are you doing Leadville?
Like I told you guys early on, and just in my background, is a lot of this is like a lot of the reason why I'm sitting in front of you guys is because somebody told me I couldn't do it, and it's kind of like led me here. And I don't know. I just think that Leadville has always been something that's like ticked my brain of like, man, I'd like to do that one day. It's like you hear people talk about it. You hear people go, yeah, maybe one day, or I'll try that next year, or I'll try to put my name in the hat next year, or I'll train for it another time. And life's short. Life's really short. I think experiences, you got to take them by the horns while you have them. And so, long story short, I'm sitting in a hotel room in Glasgow, and the Europeans might make fun of me for how I say that. I'm in Scotland, and so I always got made fun of by the Europeans for saying that wrong. And I'm in Glasgow, and I'm in Scotland. I'm sitting there, and we just found out that I'm not going to the 2020 Olympic Games. We missed qualification by a couple points, and this thing popped up on my Facebook sponsored ads. And I always wondered the guys that click on that stuff. I'm that guy now. And it was Lead Boat. They were advertising for Lead Boat, and they're talking about how they're going to combine these two events into a weekend. And I was looking for sponsors and just trying to keep my dream alive at this point. Like, what am I going to tell them? Hey, I'm going to try to go to the Olympics in 2024. And, it's like, it's hard to kind of give this sales pitch. And so I applied. I clicked on the link and I applied, and I think I even told them who I was, what I've done, where I'm at that current moment in time, and that I didn't own a mountain bike at the time. I said, I don't own a mountain bike. And I hit send. And I remember looking at my roommate and I said, if I get in, they probably didn't even read this. Like, enough people didn't apply. And now looking back on it, they definitely did read it. But yeah, I got in. Like, I forgot I even applied for it. I got an email and they charged my card, and I was just like, oh crap. I guess I got to figure out this mountain bike thing. And so in February, I called a local shop in Asheville, North Carolina that I used to work for, Motion Makers Bicycle Shop, and I bought a mountain bike from them.
What'd you get?
I got a Specialized Epic Evo. And the reason for that purchase was because I thought, hey, I'm not going to win Leadville. I want the extra suspension so I can have fun when I'm not doing Leadville, right? So, like, it's a perfect bike for Leadville, and it's also the perfect bike to kind of hang in these Colorado trails around home. And so, yeah, that's why I bought that bike. And I bought it on...
You know that you're going to need more than that bike, though, right? Because you signed up for 2 races.
Yeah. I got the gravel bike. The gravel bike thing is done. That wasn't even an issue. At that point, I had the gravel bike. And I've done gravel races. I've already done a few gravel races at this point. So that's not an issue.
Okay.
I've done a few of those. But the mountain bike thing, I bought it, and I got it on February like 27th, right before the month's about to end. 2 weeks later, the world gets shut down. Like, I don't know if you guys know about this, but there's a pandemic, or there was one. I don't know what it is anymore. But yeah, it got shut down, and like, things went awry, man. I didn't know if I was on Team USA, like if they were going to even have a program anymore, if 2024 was completely off the table. Like, I had no idea. I started losing jobs. Finances were a bit tight. Sponsors I pitched this crazy van life vlog, mountain biking, gravel calendar for 2020 to all these sponsors, and then the world gets shut down and I have no content. And I was like, oh, this is not good. And all my sponsors were great. Everybody was great. All my supporters were great. My job started to pick back up. But I got a phone call this past January that was like, hey, it's tis the season, and we're wanting to get a track team back together. And hopefully nobody from Team USA listens to this, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's kind of one of those things where it's kind of like it just picks up. Like, you just get a phone call and it's like, hey, you have a camp in 2 weeks. You need to be ready. And that's the way it is. And I kind of get that phone call that, like, hey, you're going to get a phone call and sometime in May, so be ready. So I sold my mountain bike because I wanted to buy the fastest track equipment money could buy. And I didn't want to message sponsors. I didn't want to message anybody. I did the normal person route. I like to think of myself as a professional athlete, but hey, I bought a bike just like everybody else does, and did it like everybody else. And so now that leaves me without a mountain bike. But yeah, I'm talking to a few brands that may help, but at this current moment, because I got plans for this mountain bike, because I think if I can get a mountain bike, or if somebody could donate a mountain bike, or if somebody wants to buy a mountain bike, I'd like to donate it to NICA or somebody in need. The bike changed my life. And I can be honest and say that the mountain bike, like, while I love doing it, and I'll when I retire from cycling, I'll dive headfirst all the way back into it. I can honestly say that, you know, if I got a mountain bike, depending on the brand, I won't use it after Leadville, because I'll be focused on the 2024 Olympic Games. So why don't we put it in the hands of a kid or somebody in need, and just show them what cycling can do for them? And if that means that I have to pay for it, or we have to figure out some way that we can do something cool, like, I don't know. That's kind of what's going through my head. That's kind of what's going through my mind. But yeah, at this moment, John Croom is mountain bike list for Leadville.
So just in case there is someone listening who has resources,
yeah,
and I don't know what size of mountain bike are we talking about?
We're talking about a large, and it doesn't have to be anything special. It doesn't have to be anything cool. Like I said, I'm not looking for, it doesn't have to be free either. I haven't messaged a single bike brand dropping my name. And the whole reason for that is because, just like we know about the pandemic, there's another pandemic, which is bike shortage across America right now, which I don't know if it's a pandemic or is a good thing, because it's got more people on bikes. But yeah, it's pretty tight. So I feel poor going, hey, can you give me a free bike because I'm going to ride one race on it, when you have actual buying customers that can keep your business alive, you know?
So John, your schedule then is you're on for Leadboat, but you're also carrying a track schedule right now of some sorts, a track training schedule, and that's all about the 2024 games?
Yeah, it's a track training schedule, and like, honestly, we could do a whole podcast on what my training looks like, and it'd really confuse a lot of people, because like just on Saturday I rode 100K to a 100K road race and did a 100K road race and won, and people would probably be like, why are you doing a 200K road ride training and for a 1K event? And so my training is pretty complicated, honestly.
Yeah, slightly. So Fatty, are you going to ask him, or am I going to ask him?
I'm going to let you.
I'm surprised you didn't jump on this right away. John, you're a track guy. Why not race at single speed? Race damn Leadville single speed.
I would do it. I honestly, I've had this conversation with a few brands. I would do it if I could get the bike. I would do it in a heartbeat. And honestly, if I could do it single speed, I would do Leadboat single speed, just for the sake of keeping it fun and having a blast with it. But yeah, I would love to.
The inside joke here, John, is that everyone that comes on this show that's considering Leadville or has done Leadville, Fatty always asks them, have you done it single speed? Why not do it single speed? Because Fatty's done it like 8 times. Well, how many times single speed?
I've done it 6 times on the single speed.
6 times.
One at once.
Not fixed, but single speed.
So I would do my first time single speed. If that's the thing, it's going to be new for me. No matter how I do it, it's going to be fresh. And so I could have 13, 16, 17 gears. It doesn't matter how many gears I have. It'll be my first time. And so it'll be my first experience. And I will tell you this right now. Even if I have an 80 tooth in the rear, I probably will be walking at some point with someone.
Hadi, you're in California, so you aren't super close to the DNA cycling folks. But here in Utah, where I live, the DNA cycling crew is all around me. It is a rare ride that I don't see one of the DNA team out. These guys truly love to ride.
That helps to explain the Pro Tour quality and fit DNA has.
Yeah, I need to introduce you at some point to the owner of the company, Joe Sepulveda. He is a very strong rider, and he is very particular about his gear. You might have met the type some point.
Right. That gets to the roots of DNA cycling. They weren't really looking to start a company because they saw a business opportunity. They started DNA because they couldn't find kits they loved that they could truly customize.
Yeah, design options weren't super available. They were pretty limited. Fit wasn't good. And from the onset, their goal, that is DNA's goal, was to create a kit that felt as amazing as it looks. And with their new BioFit line, they've really done it.
Yeah, the BioFit line is available to be customized right now, and getting started is easy. Just head to DNAcycling.com and choose the custom apparel option. Be sure to let them know you found out about DNA from the Leadville podcast.
For most of us, walking is part of the deal at the Leadville 100. I was happy to clean power line in 2019, but that is the only time I have done that. And that's mostly because the nasty ruts at the bottom section had been graded away.
Yeah, for some of us, walking will occur in several locations. Maybe Keevans outbound, a dab or two on Sugarloaf, the top of Columbine, the steep pitch on Pipeline inbound, and the aforementioned power line. And if you plan on walking when it's called for, then we have a tip for you.
And that tip is the same tip as we give for practically everything. Practice! Practice walking your bike uphill. It is a tip straight from Dave Weens, the Dave Weens playbook. Work on walking the nasty parts.
Good one. Absolutely great tip there. But this is a Shimano mention, Fatty, so we want to mention some equipment to go with that strategy. Now, Shimano has an XC shoe that comes as stiff as you want. That's the XC9. You race that, don't you, Fatty? The XC9? Yeah.
I love that shoe.
Terrific shoe. It is super stiff, though. We're going to suggest to walkers that you step down, no pun intended, to something like the XC5. Now, I have a pair of the XC5s, and they are great for that occasional hike-a-bike. The sole is glass fiber as opposed to carbon, so it flexes better than that carbon sole. And it's got that Michelin tread for good grip on rock. To regain some pedaling performance, try the XTR or XT trail pedals. They have more platform than the standard mountain bike SPD pedals, and you can really feel the support once you get clipped in. This is my current mountain bike shoe pedal setup, and I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and that is really the great thing about Shimano. They have products that match your abilities, your strategies, and just your preference, frankly. And they mix and match really well. Like Hadi's XC5/XTR trail setup, great for him. I love the standard XTR SPD and the XC9 shoes. We both have what we like, and Shimano makes it all. Check out Shimano shoes and pedals at bike.shimano.com.
Our guest is Joe Croom. He is really good on the track at the keel, a national champion.
Yeah.
But how good will he be in the dirt over 166 kilometers?
I am very intrigued in the true difference in what your training must require for you to get ready for this race. It's, for track, it is all about explosive power held for a short period of time. Leadville is about the ability to climb for hours on end and then descend for a little while and then climb again and for a long time. I know your schedule is complicated, but I am interested in what are you doing to be ready for, this incredible Colorado adventure, because it's not just Leadville. You're doing you're a fast professional athlete. So I don't know, maybe you're going to be 7.5, maybe you're going to be 9.5 hours. I don't know. But then you got to get to Steamboat Springs and start your next day's race in under 12 hours. You have no time to recover. How are you getting ready?
Yeah, and so let me put it this way: like when quarantine hit and everything like that, I did every dream ride that I could think of except for one, which is I have a dream ride to bike pack from my home here in Colorado Springs to my home in Greenville, South Carolina. That's a dream of mine. It's just riding from home to home and just, you've seen, if you've ever driven to the East Coast or even just driven through Kansas, you've seen Kansas, and I just love to ride it instead of being in a car for that time. But anyways, that's besides the point. I'd been training and doing all these crazy adventures. Like I went and I rode my bike for 2 days to my best friend's wedding, which was about 500K. I rode from Greenville, South Carolina, all the way to Charleston, South Carolina, over 2 days. And then I rode from here to Fort Collins in one day. which is about 200K as well. And yeah, I did some epic mountain biking, like bike packing things around here.
John, how would that differ from your training for the track? If Leadville were not in the picture right now and you were purely getting ready for the Olympic Games or your next big track event, how would your training look different? I mean, obviously right now, or you have been doing a lot of long, sustained rides. What would you normally be doing?
What I normally would be doing is pretty much, I would be doing like 3 to 5 sessions a week. But they would be double days, but they would be filled with VO2 efforts. So a lot of like 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, full gas. But then in the afternoon, I'd do a 2-hour road ride. So like I would stack it, and it depends on the timing. But really like right now, because the Olympics is so far out, I'm just doing a ton of volume. And so it's the perfect time to do that. And as I get closer to like the Olympics and things like that, you start to take those volume days and you start to ramp the intensity in those volume days. And so we look at, big gear efforts. We add another day in the gym. We do, instead of 2 days a week, we get to, 3-4 days a week in the gym. And so there's so many, it's really just layering. So like right now, like if you look at it from a 4-year span, 2020 and 2021 were big volume and maybe a little bit of intensity, some racing. But then 2022, 2023, that's where the intensity starts to get ramped up all the way into 2024, where the Olympics, it's just one big training block. You know how you lay things out. 3 months we'll do endurance, then we'll do tempo, and then we'll do steady state, then we'll do some sprint efforts, and then we rinse and repeat. It's essentially just that same cycle just stretched out over 4 years.
I think what people misconstrue or misconceive about track racing is that, it is just this hard, fast effort, and that's all you have to work on. But that's not true. I mean, track racers at all levels, whether they're sprinters or pursuit guys, kilo women, what have you, they work on endurance. You have to have that base. Otherwise, when you start piling on the efforts, the hard efforts, that just goes right out the window. You don't have the base there to support all that VO2 work.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing that people miss. Like a lot of people, like when they look at especially when they look at me, they immediately think I'm a track sprinter. I'm not. I'm an endurance track rider, and then so I ride over 2 minutes in many of my races. But what happens in the process of your body, when you past the 2 minute mark, you start breaking into that aerobic system anyway. I mean, you've depleted the system. And so you start cracking into that aerobic system. So it's a matter of, how much power can you produce and hang on to? And then you're having to do it 2-3 times in the same day, that same anaerobic effort. So how many times can you repeat it? And it's only going to be as quick as you can recover from the first one. And so we're riding 2 kilos in a day, which, I mean, that's anywhere from 900 to 1,000 watts for a minute is what I'm doing. And then I have to do that again. I have to do that twice in one day.
So what do you think a Leadville racer can learn from a track racer, and then vice versa?
I think, what a Leadville racer can learn from a track racer is that while it seems very serious with track cycling, it's, there is some fun aspect to it, and there's some crossover. I think bike handling is a huge thing in track cycling. Being able to kind of wiggle your way through people on a banked velodrome. Cadence is a massive thing. It's, we're pedaling anywhere from 115 to 140 RPMs all the way into the sprints of 160 RPMs. And so there's that. But I think honestly, and this might just be the fact that I'm a track cyclist, I think a track cyclist can learn a lot from a Leadville racer. And that's to not take things too seriously. And even though like a lot of the Leadville, especially because I coach a lot of people for Leadville, I work with a lot of people who are trying to go for Leadville, and they're very serious. And the mountain bike community is very serious, even though they have this underlying relaxed baggy shorts and whatever else. But I think what a track cyclist could learn is that there's so much in an adventure of anywhere of an 8 hours to 10-hour ride. Like, you learn a lot about yourself when you're on a bike, no matter what fitness level you are, in 10 hours. Like, it's crazy to me. And I think a lot gets taken away from, I mean, we're in races that you lose by hundredths of a second, and I mean, it's pretty, like, I'm talking about that I could have pumped my tire up 3 more PSI and maybe I would have won. Whereas we're talking here where we're hanging out at the aid station for 4 minutes too long might lose my race, And so it's just a different vibe, but I think what a track racer could learn is that, you kind of, like, just as much as you learn about yourself in that 1 minute kilo that you're like, oh man, like, I can't push myself any harder. It's like you can learn a lot about yourself in that stretched out 10 hours. And I kind of figured that out the hard way with my first gravel race.
So how are you with elevation?
Good. I mean, I'm pretty good. And I mean, so when we set the national record in the team pursuit, we were at about 3,000 meters, which I think is about 8,000 feet, maybe, is what we were at. But I've always ridden pretty well at high altitude. I adjust pretty well. I live at 6,100 feet. And I've done Pikes Peak a handful of times climbing. And so I kind of understand the power differentials and things like that. My thing is the mountain bike. Like, how am I gonna handle the descents or something like that under a sense of fatigue at altitude? You know what I mean? Like, I can kind of get into a rhythm, but if it gets any bit technical, which I keep hearing that Leadville's not too crazy. Like, if you're going to do something, it's not too crazy technical, but you're talking to a guy that only turns left. So,
well, they're sort of right. I mean, the caveat there's not a lot of single track techie stuff. It's no drops, no jumps from that side of the technical aspect of mountain biking. What there is a lot of roughness. There's areas where you're trying to pick a line. So it's not skinny type riding or riding through trees, but there are spots where you're trying to find the smooth space down a descent. And if you don't find it, then you end up getting, rattle canned to death, like coming off Columbine or Sugarloaf. For those instances, you're almost relying on on body strength. I mean, how well you hold up through a thrashing like that, deep into a day.
Yeah, and I just don't know if the altitude's going to speed that fatigue up quicker, like, because I'm not able to just process it.
Not everyone even takes that likelihood into account, though. I love that you are bringing some wisdom into this. You have been at your absolute limit before many times, and you understand that there's a good chance that you are going to be a little bit goofy, a little bit addle-brained.
100%.
As you, and here's the magic number, 11,500 feet. At least that's my magic number. I hit that and suddenly, my legs turn to rubber and, they come back, when I get back down to about 11.4. It's magic.
Yeah.
But that's coming. And boy, it is a really helpful thing to know that. You know what? I have been thinking about how you can pay for a bike. And that is right now, start a GoFundMe or something where you charge people in advance to get in your draft between Fish Hatchery and Twin Lakes Dam.
Yeah, well, I don't want to do any false advertising. I mean, I don't want to mess anybody's timing up, just because they were like, oh yeah, John's going to get me to X. And because I think, and I don't know, this might get me in trouble. I got like my pro upgrade on my USAC license, and I didn't even really ask for it, but somebody saw that I signed up for Leadville and they shot me a message like, oh yeah, we just went ahead and gave you that because you qualify, blah, 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 and that'll put you in a better corral. And I was just like, man, I don't want to be in anybody's way. Like, I know those guys, they're really nice, whatever else. I've ridden with Russ Finsterwald. Like, I've seen these guys ride bikes, but I don't want to be in anybody's way. So yeah, the last thing I want to do is false advertise that I'll get you to X, Y, and Z, especially if I want to stop and eat some cookies.
So the start, John, I think you're going to actually be right at home in the start. I mean, if you've done any point races, stuff like that, where there's traffic involved, you're going to know the drill at the start. It'll seem a little weird because you're on wide bars, but there's just a lot of elbows and knees going, and I think you're going to be fine in there, even though it's going to be crowded. In fact, a lot of the mountain bikers, they're the ones that, the true blue mountain bikers, they're the ones that struggle at the start because they're just not used to it. They haven't been in enough crits. They haven't been in enough traffic to really feel comfortable in that area. But a roadie or somebody's been in a lot of drop bar stuff, I think you're going to be fine there.
My word of advice is that you never have to really worry about yourself as much as you need to worry about the person next to you.
I like that.
And I've always had that quote. And so it's kind of like, it's you kind of got to like think about that too when you're on the front and you just feel like $1,000,000 and you're pulling this group along and you're like, I feel great. My go-to saying is just think about how the guy behind you feels. And it's kind of the same thing. It's like when you get started is, he probably feels even better than you do. So the moment you pull off, he's going to drop you. So be careful, and so like, that's kind of how I feel about getting through these traffic is just being safe and having fun, man. I mean, at the end of the day is really fun.
For sure. You want to have fun. You want to be safe, but there's no way you do not have a number in your head that you would like to hit. Let's hear it.
I do. Yeah. I'd like to go under, I'd like to go under 9 hours.
Awesome. I
think that would be a really good goal of mine. I've looked at the pacing strategies. And now mind you guys, like, I mean, I don't know if, is this going to be on video? Like, do you guys post this on YouTube or no?
No.
So people won't see me. So okay. Yeah. So, I'm like 210 pounds. And so I'm a big dude, going up Combine and some things like that. It's going to be a tough day for me. Mm-hmm. And I also, being a bigger dude means you put out more power, but putting out more power isn't always the greatest thing, especially high up in the air. You're burning more energy, which means you have to eat a lot more, which then means you have gut and GI distress because you're just putting all this sugar in your system to try to keep going. And so I don't really know how that stuff's going to play out, but ideally I want the biggie buckle, I think I want, and I'm not a belt guy, but I will be for sure if I can get one of these things. I mean, they're pretty coveted, so
good for you. I mean, go in with a good goal. My failure at my first Leadville was I did not do what you said right there, which is I'm going for sub 9. I went in and went, well, I'm going to see. And what happens when you see, you don't get what you really want, right?
Yeah, and I think I have it already mapped out for my stem once I have a bike, but I have something that I'll tape to a stem where it's like I have to be at X points for a certain number of times, which I think they have it in this Leadville group that I met you guys in. They show you the pacing strategies. So if you guys are listening and you're doing Leadville, you got to jump in that group for real because there's a lot of – I've learned more in that group than I have just – like after I applied, that group has saved my life. Like trying to figure out elevations and different ways I could even personally train for it, like just around town. So. And
we really haven't talked about Steamboat Springs much. How are you mapping that out in your head? How do you envision that playing out? You've got the bike at least.
I think that'll go. I think I'll do pretty well in that. I don't think I'll be pretty tired. But what I think I can start with the front group. Because that's more my wheelhouse. Like I can kind of fake it until I can't, like until things get too technical or things start to go uphill. And so what happens is I can get that front group to drag me just far enough into the race that, like, let's say I make it 2 hours with the front group. At that point, I'm already in the wheelhouse. Like I can kind of just. It's like I think of it as a big sag climb. So, if you guys aren't familiar with sag climbing, you start the climb at the front, you ride your own pace, and hopefully by the top of the climb, you're at the back of the pack, right? And so you never got dropped. You just finish with the group. That's kind of the way I'm thinking of it, but in a bigger version of it. By the time it comes down to it, I'll be kind of spat in the back with, the fluff. I'll finish.
Yeah, there's enough room to do that at Steamboat, not so much at Leadville. I mean, if you tried to go into Keevans and sag climb that, you would have people on your grill pretty quick, I think. Yeah.
I'm also not confident in my handling with the big dogs, you know? So like I have an engine, I have speed, I'm a fast bike rider, but I have no business in like trying taking hole shots or like trying to lead down descents or anything like that. Whereas like on a gravel bike, I think I can kind of fake it a little bit. I've done enough gravel races. I've won a few gravel races. I've top 10'd in a few gravel races. Like I'm not really stressed about that. But when it comes to mountain biking, especially at this caliber, and I'm not saying that Steamboat's not a huge caliber. Like you're gonna have the Ted Kings, the Payson McKelvins. Like you'll have your big guys there, Colin Strickland probably, but I can it's going to be a bigger front group in the beginning than it will be at Leadville, I think.
Tell us about the state of track cycling right now. What's going on with what's going on for the United States in track cycling? I mean, this kind of pops up for us. It gets on our radar once every 4 years at the Olympic Games. It's too bad it doesn't come up more. It's a terrific thing to go watch in person because you can see everything. But what's going on a national level for the United States in track cycling right now?
Yeah, right now, I mean, it's just like any other discipline, I think, right now. As far as like with the pandemic, a lot of tracks are closed because, you know, they're indoors and whatnot, but people are making things happen and people are making things work the best of their abilities, which is really awesome. And I mean, you know, the women track cyclists are amazing. And I mean, they have been for the last, since London. And, I mean, they have a real shot at Olympic gold this year. I mean, 3-time world champions in the team pursuit. And then you have Jennifer Valente, who's top 5 in the Omnium at Worlds several times. And so it's really exciting to see our women. And I think honestly, you want to know what our track cycling is in the US? It's our women. Like that's our track. That's track cycling. And that's cool to see. And then you have Adrian Hedgevari and Gavin Hoover, who are kind of going for the Madison and the Omnium, and they'll take part, and they're looking pretty good. I mean, you know, just coming off of Belgium and racing some of the top end guys out there, and yeah, so I'm pretty interested to see like what they can do at the Olympics. But I think the future for track cycling is even more exciting with this recent ODP or ODA program or whatever they have that they just released. I think it's like you like pay to get in, and it's like an academy for cyclists, and there's some controversy on the price and how people feel about it and whatever else. I'm just excited to see that, hey, we're trying to look for people. We're trying to make it work. We're trying to make it happen. And who has talent, who can do this and who wants to do this, and kind of putting them in front of the coaches to see that happen is pretty exciting. But yeah, so as far as like a national level with track cycling, I think it's going in a great direction, and I think it's growing, and it grows year after year after year. And I mean, with Ashton Lambie coming out of nowhere, out of Kansas, you know, was second at Worlds and part of the program that I was in, and set the world record and the national record at the time in the pursuit. It's kind of cool. It's cool to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. How long can you keep up a career on the track? Do you figure?
Well, my roommate's going to kill me for saying this, but Adrian Hedgevari, who lives with me, is 37. I'm 27. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, my wife would also kill me for saying this, but the goal is to go to Paris and then reassess from there. But I also have some other goals in life that I need to chase as well and give a shot. So,
well, John, I'm just going to tell you right now, I don't think you can finish Leadville.
Well, okay, yeah, we'll see, man. I mean, as of right now, without this mountain bike, it's kind of one of those things.
I'm just saying, because that's what fires this guy up. I don't think you can finish it all, and you for sure can't finish under 9.
And that's how I respond. That's usually how I respond. Is okay, yeah, we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
We want all the listeners of this podcast to go on every forum and say John Croom absolutely cannot finish Leadville, cannot get under 9 hours.
Man, I'm going to get DMs and I'm just like from random people forgetting that we had this conversation. And I'm just like, what?
That's why we're here. John, it's been such a huge pleasure listening to you, hearing your amazing story. And this is not the only place people can hear you. Tell us about where people can find you and about your podcast.
No, yeah, I appreciate that. So you guys can find me at John C. Croom. So that's JOHNC Croom, CROOM. And you can find me, so that's on Instagram. You can also find my podcast, which is Coffee and Van Chats. It's a super relaxed podcast. It's just pretty much picking across all the pros that you can think of. And it's kind of like this, honestly, just super chill, asking questions, shooting back and forth, talking about coffee, talking about bikes, and getting really getting to know the athletes past the bike. So sometimes we don't talk much bikes. We just talk about what they like to do and where they like to be. But yeah, you can check that out on all platforms. That's Coffee and Van Chats.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the Leadville podcast. I am looking forward to seeing you in Leadville.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I look forward to hanging out.
Again, good luck to John Croom and his endeavors, his efforts at the Leadville Trail 100 and on the track coming up too. We wish him well in both areas. I mentioned in our interview with Stephen Fitzgerald of Rodeo Adventure Labs my rigid Leadville hardtail setup. And some of you might know that my no suspension experiment did not end with a buckle of any kind.
Yeah, a rigid hardtail is going to be a rough day for anyone, and definitely it was a rough day for you. I knew something was up when I saw you cheering for me at the Carter Aid station inbound.
Yeah, by then I was off my bike, off my rigid hardtail. Leadville had spit me out. It said to me, "You, sir, are not mentally prepared to be here, so get out." And I did.
It wasn't the bike that got you?
No, it actually wasn't. But speaking of that bike, even though it is long gone for the most part, I did keep the key component to that rigid setup, and that is the Envy Mountain Fork, a carbon rigid piece of magic that I continue to ride on another 29er to this day. It has a couple of very cool features, which is why I kept it. I sold the rest of the bike, but I did keep that fork. One is the fork has this adjustable offset. I can either set it to 50 millimeters for kind of quick steering or 46 for more trail and a steadier ride. I also love the cool little fender that comes with a fork. Even though I live in dry Southern California, man, I keep the fender on just because it looks so cool.
Everything about Envy products has that in common. They look cool. And here's another thing that our Envy products have in common. They seem to last across multiple bikes. I've said before in our show how I have a set of wheels that is 3 frames old. And just because the wheels outlast everything. Envy is just, they're known for road and its gravel forks, probably because so many custom builders turn to Envy when they are speccing a bike with a carbon fork, and they should. The mountain fork is not as well known because mountain bikes mostly have some kind of suspension up front.
But if you're interested in going rigid on your hardtail, go Envy. It's pretty amazing what your bike becomes when you bench that suspension fork. Check out Envy carbon forks and components at Envy. That's ENVE.com.
Let's go ahead and wrap this episode. Big thanks to John Croom. Hottie, I used to go to the Merrimore Velodrome back in Sammamish, Washington with my kids and watch the Friday night races with them. We would just sit on the lawn above the track that you had a view down into it. I would never have thought that I'd someday be interviewing a track pro who is getting ready to do the Lead Boat Challenge. I gotta say, I love John's story. I am really rooting for this guy.
Yeah, here. I have raced the track, in fact. Not enough to know much about being a champion like John, but I do know that the track is a far cry from Leadville. John Croom seems to know that too, and that's why he has a great chance at having a good day at our favorite race. Listeners, if you like our storytelling season of the Leadville podcast, let us know. Fatty's on Twitter at FatCyclist, and I am on Instagram at Michael Houghton. Of course, we are both on that Facebook Leadville 100 mountain bike participants page. I think John Croom hangs out there too.
Yeah.
Share the love on whatever social you can.
Yeah, and if you want to have a conversation, join our Slack channel. You'll find a link to it over at Leadville100podcast.com. And if you like this show, go over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating. Write us a review.
Whether on the track or in the dirt, good luck in your training. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you at the 2021 starting line.